There are two types of medical sales representatives. Well, there's probably more than two types of medical sales representatives, but some of us have the habit of dividing everything into two different categories, so I'm going to start there. But the two categories I'm talking about are medical sales representatives who are happy with the status quo and those who are always looking for any type of improvement they can achieve and use it to their advantage. So let's talk about the first type. If you're happy with the status quo, you're doing well, you're making enough money, you're hitting quota, exceeding quota, great. This isn't for you. And by the way, that's most of the medical sales representatives out there. Most of them are happy with the status quo. And for some of them, it's okay because some of them are doing extremely well. The vast majority of them are average. That's just the reality. And I'm not saying average is bad, but average is average. Average means you're at the middle of the bell curve. It means that on a distribution, you're doing roughly what most people are doing. You're somewhere on that curve. And if you're okay with that, again, you're happy with your income, you're happy with your outcome, that's great. But let's talk now to the people who want to improve, who are looking for even that incremental improvement that'll make a difference in their life. I want to talk to you. How do you improve if you're a medical sales professional, especially if you've been doing it for a period of time, you've experienced some success, but you want to go to the next level? Well, there's essentially two things that need to happen. And again, I've been a professional trainer training medical sales professionals for over 20 years now. That's all I've been doing, as well as speaking at national sales meetings, keynote presentations, something I love doing to get them in the right frame of mind, the right motivation. But when it comes right down to it, there are two things that are going to create your outcomes. The first thing is knowledge. How much do you know? Do you know enough? Let me answer that first question. Do you know enough? Well, if you are continuously learning, if you're putting in the time, literally every day, if you're reading about your industry, about your products, about the specialists and other healthcare professionals who use your products, then you probably have sufficient knowledge. You're never going to know it all. Nobody is. If Einstein were alive today, he wouldn't know it all. But he'd be smart enough to do what number two is, and that is practice. And not just any practice. I'm talking about deep practice. So why does practice matter? Well, let's again take a look at what you do professionally. You're a sales professional. Your job is to educate, to share information about generating better health outcomes for your customers and the patients that they take care of. So you need a rather significant base of knowledge to be able to do that. But more importantly, you must be able to convey that knowledge. You have to be able to articulate it in a way that it resonates with the people you're talking to. So how does this come about? Well, it comes about by doing it. Now, you're all out there doing it. You're selling. If you're making money, if you've closed sales, you are out there doing it. But here's the problem. Practicing in front of your customers, or I should say with your customers, is not the best way to do it for many reasons. But let's just look at the most obvious reason. When you're practicing with your customers and things don't go so well, what happens? Well, you don't get the sale. That's the first thing that happens. But probably something worse is you've burned a customer. You've burned through a customer. You see, you only get one opportunity to make a good first impression. It's an old quote. It's cliche. Some of you might even think that it's trite, but it is so real and so essential that you understand this. When you get in front of a doctor, the first time you talk about your product, they will log in their minds, as if they're keeping records and track of what salespeople they've seen and what products they've heard about. They will log that they've already heard about your product. A lot of times they will formulate an opinion based on this one encounter. And sure, you could follow up and you may be able to change their thinking and whatever their initial perception is, but your job's going to be a lot harder because when you're calling on them for the first time, you've got a clean slate. They're open to it. You don't want to waste that opportunity. So the only way to perform well is to have either burned through a lot of other customers before you get to the one that really matters, and that's assuming that all the prior ones didn't matter. In my thinking, they all matter. Or you engaged in sufficient practice to where you're able to articulate that message in a very cogent and compelling way. Now, when I'm talking about practice, let me be very clear on this. I'm talking about deep practice. For some of you, your thinking or ideas about practice might be going over the presentation, what you're going to say while you're driving to the sales call. And you're thinking, okay, well, I'm going to talk about that. And we say, hey, Doc, we're going to do this, and then I'll close with this. I'll say, so Doc, what do you think? You want to schedule a case? That's the idea that most reps have about practicing. But I'm not talking about that. Deep practice is, for example, what athletes do when they scrimmage on the field, when they're actually tackling and trying to get around blockers, or when they get hit by that tackle that slams them to the ground and stuns them for a moment. What is the value of deep practice? Well, deep practice is real, and the value is that there is no better way to learn, none, than deep practice. And specifically, the part of deep practice where you screw up, where you don't do well. Maybe you might even consider it failure. You see, when we mess up, when we make a mistake, and we correct that mistake, that's some of the best learning there is. And I'm not just talking about this from experience. Learning professionals have done academic studies. I should say learning academics, people who study how adults learn. It's known that, for example, athletes, when athletes, let's say, you're trying to learn to hit a backhand in tennis, they will proceed at a better rate and they will inculcate these skills to a much deeper level when they don't do it well initially. When they're trying to swing that backhand and it's off and they're just not able to place the ball where they want to, or they miss it completely. And then they adjust and they do it again, and they adjust and they do it again. And each time they practice, they're getting a little bit better. And the skills are being ingrained not only into their brain, but into their muscle memory. It becomes more natural. They can swing the racket without thinking. This is what I'm talking about with medical sales professionals. And again, only those who want to improve. If you're happy with your status quo, God bless you. Keep going. I'm happy for you. But my job as a medical sales enablement professional is to help people who want to improve. Maybe it's your company who wants you to improve. Maybe you're doing it on your own. But the key to this is deep practice. Not doing it alone in your head, but doing it in a way where you're actually interacting and feeling the real world pressures of doing it when you're out in the territory. Now, what you might think I'm alluding to is role play, like is done in sales training. Now, I happen to know a lot about this because I've been facilitating very structured role plays in workshops for over 20 years. And I get it. It is not the real world. When you're selling in the real world, you don't have 20 or 30 or more people watching you. And let's be honest, judging you. That's the worst part. That's what we all hate. Nobody wants to be judged while they're learning, because when you're learning, you're going to screw up. You're going to make mistakes. And we don't like doing that in front of others, especially our peers and colleagues, and especially our managers, because for our managers and trainers, VPs of sales, their judgment matters because they have some level of influence on your job. So it's very uncomfortable. And just from that perspective alone, you're not able to perform in a natural way. It just doesn't work. But many reps will say to me, well, I'm not real good at role play. I'm very uncomfortable, but I'm real good when I'm in front of a customer. How many of you were thinking about this while I was describing the role play situation? Probably many, if not most of you. You see, here's the thing. It's very natural to be talking one-on-one with a doctor, one-on-one to a nurse, one-on-one to a materials manager or some other stakeholder, because that's the way we sell. When we're having conversations, it's one-on-one, and we don't have an audience. So the only person that we know we're being judged by is the prospect or the customer. And we don't even look at it that way. We don't look at it in terms of judgment. Although it's very much judgment, because they're not only judging your product, they're also judging you and how you present the product. The overall way of scoring the encounter will be whether or not you get the sale or whether or not you're able to progress to the next step. But you are being judged. So what if you could practice under very real circumstances? I mean, real work. It almost make you sweat. But no one is judging you at all. You could do it in the privacy of your home, the privacy of your car. You could even do it in a bathroom stall if you wanted, but somebody who's just coming in, washing their hands, may be wondering why you're having a sales call conversation and who this other person is with you in the stall. The other person I'm talking about is an AI avatar. Now, I created something called the Medical Sales Simulator using AI technology. You've probably seen this, but the difference between what I put together and just what's generically out there is this AI sales simulator is programmed with my sales methodology. And the beauty of it is before you engage in a role play, there is a rubric which tells you exactly what the goals are for the role play. And then the AI will score you on whether or not you've met the goals for this rubric. And even more importantly, it gives you feedback based on the proprietary methodology that I programmed into it so that you can improve instantly on the spot. It gives you very detailed instructions on what you could do better, things you could say, the words you could use. It'll even tell you when you mispronounce some of those, and I almost mispronounce. It'll let you know when you mispronounce some of those difficult to say medical words like erythema or chlamydia. Don't know why that popped into my head, but I usually go with the first thought. Here's the point. You have a way to practice. And you didn't have a way to practice your sales presentations before. You're able to practice in a way that is not only realistic, but it's going to give you feedback after each engagement, whether it's a minute long or 10 minutes, that's up to you, on how you can improve. And you could do it again, or you could do it again next week or the week after that. You can do it whenever you want because you are in control. It's very similar to someone who likes to play golf. If you're a golfer, you recognize that if you're not doing the practice, what is practice in golf? And I'm not a golfer. And the reason that I'm not a golfer is because I suck at practice. When I did practice to try and get good at golf, it just wasn't possible. If I was with a golf pro, I would get better. But when I was practicing on my own, I didn't get better. The practice I'm talking about is going to the driving range, hitting balls, or practicing putting, or practicing chip shots. Golfers do this almost instinctively because they want to get better. Now, medical sales professionals, they don't all want to get better. And practicing, it just doesn't register with them because they look at what they do professionally as a different endeavor than golf. See, there's a strong connection between practice and athletic activity, not so much a lot of times with what we do professionally. Well, if you think about it, they don't let doctors, surgeons into the operating room until they've had years of practice with an attending guiding them. So that way they know they're safe. They're not going to harm a patient. It's the same thing with a pitcher. The pitcher doesn't get up on the mound until he or she has spent time with a pitching coach, getting out there every day and throwing the ball, practicing their curveball, their slider, their fastball, their curve, whatever it is. Only then do they get to do it. It's the same thing for you as a medical sales professional. So you need the knowledge. You have to expand what you know every day, but you need a way to practice. If all you're doing is studying, you're only doing half the job. If you're studying and practicing, then what you're doing is you're maximizing your skills and ability to be able to present to your customers, to be able to handle whatever they throw at you. And if you're not doing either, well, status quo. And by the way, if you're not doing either, you're probably average, because that's what average people do. If you want to find out more about the Medical Sales Simulator, I'm including it now in Medical Sales Academy. You can read more about it at medicalsalesacademy.com. If you'd like to see a demo of the Medical Sales Simulator, you can schedule a free demo with me. I'll show it to you. No pressure selling. I'm just going to show you how it works. Let you be the judge whether or not you think this is something that can help you. If you think it can, great. If you don't, fine. No problem. And you know what? You'll have the link. You'll know where to find it. So at some point in the future, if you decide you want to do it, you'll know where it is. But right now, if you're unaware of the technology and this tool that's available to help you practice in a very structured way with proven methodology, you're leaving money on the table. Go to medicalsalesacademy.com and check out what it says about the Medical Sales Simulator. And if you already are a member of Medical Sales Academy and you would like to upgrade to the Medical Sales Simulator, there are instructions on how you can do it at medicalsalesacademy.com too. This is something I have been waiting for, hoping for, dreaming of for the 20 years I've been training. Because when I do a workshop, it's a great experience. People love it. They love the role play. They dread it before they do it, but once they do it, I make it fun. They love it. But then what happens once they leave the training? They don't do it anymore. And the skills that they learned at the training, or the beginning of skills, I should say, it just diminishes. They go back to where they are. They continue to be average or whatever performance level they were at before. Now there is a way to take what you learn and to continue to either build on it or to at least maintain a level of competency so that whenever you are face to face with a customer, you have the skills, you have the ability to engage them in a compelling way that leads to better sales outcomes. medicalsalesacademy.com. If you want a demo, get in touch. I'll answer all your questions. And if you have a question, shoot me an email, mace@medicalsalestraining.com. Always happy to communicate with you because my goal is to help you improve if you're one of that very narrow distribution of medical sales professionals who truly care about earning more, being better, and being a professional. Thanks for watching. Go practice.